Hi everybody, this is Sherry, and this is a card front that I have stamped out and masked and did all of the stamping that I needed to get done. And this is an example of learn from my mistakes. you oh, you guys just don't even want to know what I did. I end up cutting off the elephant and the lion. Um, there was so much pressure on my brain yesterday. I kept thinking, something's not right. Why is this not right? This is not right. Why is this not right? And then I realized that I was coloring the lion the colors I had chosen for the giraffe. And I have two colors chosen for the giraffe. So that was, or two sets of colors. So that was really something to see. And it was horrible. So I cut it out. And here in a few minutes, and you'll see that I cut the card down to just the Jeep with the giraffe and ostrich in it. And then I have to restamp my sentiment on the card base whenever I get ready to put the card together. And also on the ostrich, I did 41, 44, and 47 for the head, and I was supposed to do 44, 47, and 48 for the body because the head is supposed to be a little bit lighter. But you'll see here in a minute, I go up over it with my darker for the body and darken up the head. And I don't know what I was thinking. I'm so sorry that this is definitely not going the way I had intended for it to go. And I was so upset when I had to get rid of the elephant and the lion because I had put a lot of time into masking that out. But alrighty then, it just wasn't meant to be, and I'm just going to go with it from there and make the best of it. Because, you know, in my heart said, chuck it in the trash. Look what you did. But I survived. And again, I always do my coloring with my light, then my dark, then my medium, and then if I need, and then my light again. And then if I need to go back over it, I start immediately with my dark, medium, and then my light. And that's how I do all of these images. And that's also, I work as if my highlighter, my light source is coming directly from the front. So everything would be lighter in the center and darker on the edges. And so here's the beginning of my giraffe. And of course you can imagine, you know, it just did not go well because I didn't start the giraffe with this color, the lion with this color. I started with the darker color that I intend to use for the little spots on the giraffe. So that lion was looking pretty funky by the time I'd figured out what I had done. But so here I am. I'm just using my E50, 51, and 53. I noticed when I looked at pictures online, the colors inside the lines were really pale. I mean, almost like a dirty white or an off-white, but they weren't a real dark color. So I wanted my giraffe's body to be as light as I possibly could, but also, you know, have enough color that I could add in my shadows and my highlights and whatnot. So the E50, 51, and 53, those worked really well. Now here I go with my spots, 20, 21, 23, and 25. And I just sit and I still keep shaking my head thinking, how could I not know that those were definitely the wrong color for my lion? But alrighty then, we're just not going to dwell on the fact that sometimes I am a boob and make simple mistakes, and we are just going to roll with this. And so here I'm getting ready, and I decided that if I was in the jungle and I was in a Jeep with a giraffe and an ostrich, that my Jeep would be blue. And not only is my Jeep going to be blue, but my Jeep is going to be decked out with chrome from head to toe, buddy. My bumpers and my roll cage and my brush guard, all of that's going to be done in grays because I decided that it was going to be all nice and shiny for my Jeep. So I go ahead and I continue coloring up. Again, I put my lightest as my base coat, then I put my darkest, and then I go back in with my mid-tone, And then again my lightest, because buddy, I want my chrome to stand out. Now you'll see here in a minute I go to color the piece of the Jeep that's on the undercarriage, and I wanted it to be blue as well, because I figured in my mind if I could afford to deck this Jeep out, I'd want a blue undercarriage. So that's what I do. But because the underside, the undercarriage of the car wouldn't get near as much light, because it would have the body of the Jeep giving it shadows. So when I move to that spot here in a minute, you'll see that I put in the new collars for the, or I don't know if I put them in or not, I'm sorry. But the new collar for the undercarriage, I do 14, 16, and 18 instead of 12, 14, and 16, because I want it to still be blue and I want it to still match, but it just needs to be a shade darker because it wouldn't be getting, you know, really any sun. So I wanted it to be a little darker, but still show that it was the blue and still all match. So I'm finishing up my Jeep here. I go back in and I put just one last coat to really get it blended well, because I was just, I don't know, I was really struggling with my blending that day. And so hopefully, you know, I think it turned out all right. I think that, you know, I should have realized what was going on, and that I might, you know, was not thinking straight, and I should have just waited to do it. But I was so excited about it, and I absolutely love Gerda Steiner stamps, and so I knew I had to do this card, and I was just like, my brain said, you're doing it, you're doing it. So apparently I was doing it. I just didn't really know what I was doing half the time. So, and I just go back over the fenders here to add a little shadow where the top of the Jeep would be, you know, above that, and it would be casting a shadow down on the fenders. And then here in a minute, I'm going to move to the undercarriage. Here we go. And I just darken it up a little bit, and I use my 44, 47, and 48 instead of the 41, 44, and 47. And again, it matches. It's the same thing, just a little bit darker because it wouldn't be getting any sun, because it's underneath of the Jeep. And so we're going to I get that finished, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to color my chrome. And I want my chrome to be a shiny silver. So I use C1, 2, and 3. And I actually was going to color my steering wheel chrome, and then I was like, ooh, no, that can't be. That would be hot in the sun. So I go back over in a little bit and I fix it with a different color. But yeah, because you can't color have your steering wheel chrome. It would get really hot in the sun. So, but I'm going ahead and I'm putting in my base. Now I'm doing my darkest and then my midtones. And now going back over it all with my lightest there for my mirror, because even my mirrors are going to be chrome on this Jeep. I am going to be extremely cool. I mean, there's just no way about it. I'm going to be the coolest person in the jungle. And I'm just finishing up some more of my chrome, and then I'm going to get started on my tires. Now for my tires, I switch from the cool grays to the warm grays, because I knew the cool grays have more of a blue tone to them, and I definitely didn't want my tires to look like they were didn't have any blue in them. I wanted them as black as possible, but still didn't want to use black because I needed to be able to show shadows and highlights. So for that, I go with the W4, 6, and 8, and so I can still see the detail in the tires and all of that. So I'm also decided that I'm just going to color up my steering wheel and make it black, since I can't do chrome. I could have done it blue. That'd been really cool looking too. And, but I go ahead and I finish it up, and now I'm going to do my little headlights here in the front. And at the end of this, I go over them with glossy accents, because I want them to look as close to glass as possible. And I guess I could have actually done glossy accents over the entire windshield, but I didn't think of it. Maybe I'll go back and do that. If I do, I'll show you in the pictures at the end, because I like that idea. I really want it to look like glass, so that would be the easiest way to make that happen, and still be able to, you know, keep what I've already got done. So here I am, I'm just going over around the animals to put in a blue, like some kind of a sky. But I realized that I didn't like the color that I picked. So I go over it again with my lighter blue and try to take down some of that blue color and soften it up. Now here's my Clear Star Jelly Roll pen, and that thing puts out a lot of shimmer and shine, and I knew immediately that that was what I was going to use for my chrome, so that it would look like it was, you know, just bright, bright, shiny. Gone over my headlights and then my brush guard, and I am going to have the snazziest truck around, folks. I am loving this. She's got, oh, I can hardly wait to do the other animals. Seeing as how I messed them up this time, I will be coming back shortly with a card showing them, because they're just, I mean, she's got so many awesome animal sets. And this one, I used two sets for this card. I used the Go Wild, and then I also used the Party Animal. And the Jeep and the giraffe came from the Go Wild set, and then the ostrich comes from the Party Animal set. And I'm just trimming him up there, and I'm getting ready to use my Memento brush marker to go along the edge. Now I got this at Jamie's shop, but I'm not sure if she still has them. I am about out of ink on this, so I'm going to have to see if she has them in. If she does, I will definitely put a link in the description box for them, and I'll also put a link for the stamp sets that I use for this card. Now I'm just using my art glitter glue and putting on a couple of 4mm googly eyes. I just thought they would be hysterical on this card, and I love it because when you use the action wobble, it wiggles back and forth, so then their eyes are going all over the place. So I just use my Stampin' Up! Chalks to put a little pink in their cheeks and make them all smiley. Now here's another mistake, okay? I'm going ahead and I'm using some masking tape to tape down my watercolor paper, which is actually the Strathmore Bristol Smooth paper. And I use the tape and I put it on my arm so the oils on my skin will take off a little bit of the sticky. And I get ready to start my smooshing technique. Everything is fine with the smooshing technique. You know, the tape comes off fine. But I decided that I wanted to dry it faster. So I decided, I just feel so simple saying this, I decided to use my heat gun. And so you can imagine what my heat gun ends up doing to that plastic clipboard. That was just so not a good idea. So not a good idea. So if you're looking for a hard place to put down your watercolor, definitely do not choose something plastic. And I just go over and wipe off my mess here. And there's where I'm going to bring out my heat gun in a minute. But I decided I wanted a little bit of purple in it, so I bring in my shaded lilac. And so I dry up a little because I didn't want it to blend too much that you wouldn't be able to tell the lilac from the other blues. And I like how you can like smush the ink and push it with your fingers to kind of get it to go where you want it to go. And every time I watch this, I just want to smack myself for being so stupid that I didn't think that that heat was going to affect that clear plastic board. I don't know. I don't know where my head was, but it definitely was not with this. So, and because it didn't hold it down, even afterwards I'm trying to straighten it out and it still is not wanting to straighten out. And I'm sure it's because, you know, even the plastic warped, so, you know, that card has gotten a completely different shape. So here I'm just masking off part of the sentiment because I just want the Go Wild, and I'm using my VersaFine Onyx Black ink so that I can get a good impression. I just pull off the Post-it note that I want and stamp it up there at the top. And I always give it a second for it to sink in. It just seems to, you get a better, I think, you get a better impression when you give it the ink a second to sink into the paper. Now here I'm getting ready to put down my card base to my gray 110-pound Recollections cardstock that I turned into my base. I'm getting ready to put my top layer on here, and I just used my ATG tape to get that down. And I'm going to try to straighten it out because I realized later that it's really warped. And here I am trying to figure out where I want to put my little Jeep. And I realized that I was trying to center the action wobble in the middle of the Jeep. Well, you don't do that. You center the action wobble in the middle of the project. So I didn't take into account the head sticking over, so it kind of tips down. So you'll see here in a minute, I take it off. Yeah, there you go. I take it off and I move it up higher because that was the only way to make the image lay straight, on the action wobble. And I just take off the release paper on the top and then push it down real good so it's stuck, and then take off the release paper on the back, and I'm going to attach it to my card front. Super easy to do. And I come in here in a few minutes with some glossy accents for my headlights, and my card is done, folks. There you guys. I love that. I hope you guys like this card. I hope you like this process video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks for visiting me today, guys, and happy crafting. Bye.